whenever you approach the topic of religion, and we haven't really talked about religion per se, existence of God, the traditional apologetic stuff, but whenever you try to approach that conversation from anything other than, I guess, an analytic philosophical tradition, this accusation often comes up, and it seems like this is something that's been levied at you. Where do you think that criticism comes from? Do you think there's, the fact that you recognize while you're saying words that this may sound to people like I'm just sort of talking nonsense?
Yeah.
Why do you feel the need to issue that disclaimer, in other words?
To some extent, it really is the fault of religious people to some extent, is that in the 19th and 20th century, many, many religious people have become what is something like practically they are materialists and they are rationalists practically, but they continue to maintain let's take New Earth creationism, for example, right? That's a good example where it's like people who think that Genesis 1 is a scientific text, and then they insist on that. And then and then at some point what happens is that they cease to understand what these terms are about. And so they don't know what it means, what heaven means. They don't know what spirit means. They don't know what any of these things mean. And they have no connection to the ancient way of thinking. And so then they've made the language completely abhorrent to people. So it's like when you hear certain words, when people hear certain words like spirit, for example, that's a good example. People hear the word spirit, they just roll their eyes in the back of their head because they think you're just not talking about anything. You're talking about ectoplasm or some ridiculous like spiritualist material thing that was invented in the modern age. And so in some ways, religious people are to blame for what happened, and the fact that now people just look at this stuff and say exactly like, oh, so a big guy on the sky, it's like, and I want to be careful. It's like some of the religious people that have this thing, usually they're misrepresenting a deep intuition that is real, but they're misrepresenting it in the way that they deal with it. Like I had an example with someone that I care for very much, but was kind of like this kind of materialist thing. And I asked him, I said, when Jesus went up into heaven, where did he go? Did he go into the clouds? Did he go into the moon? Like, where did he go? And the person literally said, I never thought about that. And I thought, well, then if you've never thought about that, but you have this weird kind of scientific materialism about you, then we're in trouble, my friend, because like just with one question, I could undo your faith. Like I could destroy your entire worldview with one question. And so, we have to be able to look at this in a different way, let's just say.
So where is it that the atheist, rationalist, analytic type critic of your religious worldview most fundamentally goes wrong in terms of their approach?
No, but I think it's exactly they do the same as the kind of materialist Christian, is that they think that there's a certain way to describe reality and there's only one. And it tends to equate itself to a kind of, let's say, a forensic description of a crime, right? That's the best way to understand it. It's like they think that everything is something like a forensic description. But the reality is that it isn't. That's just not how reality works. Forensic descriptions have a certain purpose, but most of the time you do not use forensic descriptions. Most of the time you use what people call heuristics, which I hate that term, by the way. But that people use mechanisms of meaning in order to get to their meaning. And so if we don't understand the types of mechanisms of meaning that religion is involved in, then at some point we're just talking past each other and we don't know what's happening. And like I said, religious people are to blame often for that because they themselves have, at least in the modern age, forgotten the structure of the ancient cosmologies. Like they haven't read Dante, they haven't read the Church Fathers, they don't know they don't know anything about scholasticism, they don't know anything about the metaphysics of Christianity. They just have this kind of first level understanding.
So